So there was this thing about this guy who allegedly saved or something. Now, this is very hard, you know, for one to see. In that thing, can anyone see the interview room? He's in an interview. Once you go into that interview room, doesn't matter what you do, whatever you say out of that mouth, it's going to send you to jail. Doesn't matter if you're a hero or anything. So, you know, you might go out and save someone, but you end up in jail because you go into that interview room. Stop making claims and speaking out of that mouth. As soon as you start speaking, it's game over. Can anyone hear this? Yeah, because you seem to be completely confused about where's the justice in this world? Where's the justice? You know, good people are going down. Well, what did if you guys are so onto with the scripture, what did Jesus say allegedly about good? Is there anyone who is good but one? Yeah. So who's, you know, and he says he risked his own life to protect innocent people. Well, guess what? He's an owner. And once you believe you're an owner, right, it says here that's what heroes do. So a hero is an owner. And now he needs to be prosecuted. What's being done to him now is a disgrace. No, it isn't. That's no disgrace in that. Because you're coming of your own. And anything you do of your own and you start doing an interview in front of the powers that be, you're going to jail. I don't understand. Why is that so hard to understand? What is it? Oh, there's no justice in this world. It's so unfair.
No.
Really? Whose world does one think this is?
Hey,
I mean, I'm just trying. I don't know. What do you boys figure from it? You know, you think this he's the Dalai Lama now, or what? Or he's a hero saving people? Save people? No. Do it naturally. Go out and fucking pull someone out of a hole or a burning car, get blown up and still if you're living, you save 3 or 4 lives. Yeah. Fuck. You're going to make a hero out of you saying, oh, I did this and I did that. Who the fuck are you? Did you do anything? You did nothing. You're doing what you should do. Right? And it's the same with that movie, Hacksaw Ridge. Right? There was this guy who went to the war front line with his bombs and bullets and everything, and he saved hundreds of lives. But did he go and do an interview and say, oh, I saved all these people, I risked my life? Fuck no. He knew he wasn't his own. He just did what he did, and everyone else put him up on the fucking, this guy's a fucking, he's the Dalai Lama of all things on the planet, mate. This guy, you know, he looked after us. He was there. He didn't do any preaching. He didn't go doing any talking. He just did doing. Is there a difference between doing and preaching? I don't know. Is anyone on this call? Can anyone hear? I'm just glad it's the two of you boys because I don't think anyone's going to pick up on this. Do you hear me, Dominion? Bob?
I can hear you.
Well, what do you reckon? What are the thoughts on this bullshit I'm talking about?
I didn't see the actual video. I've seen the comments back and forth in the chat about it. But I understand your take on it. Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It doesn't matter once you end up there. It's
oh, crikeys. Another believer.
Only with a few beliefs, brother.
All right, brother, it's okay. So are you hearing what I'm saying, or am I talking another bit of gobbledygook?
Well, I do hear what you're saying, brother, but the guy never claimed he was a hero. If I'm hearing it correctly, the agents chased him down and was asking him a bunch of questions, and he was just telling what happened. So
There you go. In the scripture, okay, what did Jesus allegedly say? See that no man knows it. Right? Tell me what happened. As soon as you start telling, you're fucking fucked. You don't go talking to an agent. I don't know how anyone can start. And even if you listen, if you did a transcript of that interview, I can guarantee you that he's testified against himself in the claim of help and in the multiple claims that he was making. And yet,
I fully agree with that.
He's a hero in the eyes of man. He's a hero.
I believe for his actions, he's a hero. I believe the words is just a word game that came after.
Yeah, but listen, the word game is what soils the deeds of man. You want to talk? Well, that's gonna fucking soil you. It's gonna muddy the waters.
But I never think he wanted to talk, brother. He was brought in, and he was just.
I reckon we'll watch it because I don't know. Let's just watch this because there's a. Hang on a bloody minute. Where are we?
I guess the question I really have is why do they even need to talk to him? Because he was never seeking.
Hey, it doesn't matter why. Listen, there's a claim that was made. As soon as there's a claim that's made out in the world of so-called whatever world you want to call this, the claim needs to be investigated. It needs to be hunted down, right?
Right.
So who is this? Let's go find him. Let's go find this claimant, right? Let's go and find out, see if he's a claimant, and let's listen to out of his pie hole, see what happens. I'm going to play this now.
Okay.
And we're going to listen to what he says because I don't know. It seems to be so difficult for anyone to realise. Once you speak to any kind, anyway, I'm going to just see if we can just put it in there. Oh, here we come. Finally, slowly coming up. All right, what have we got here?
I'm with you on he testified against himself, 100%, brother. I guess I'm a little hazy on how the man can show good intent, can do a masculine heroic act, and why agents even need to talk to a man who's already shown positive intent. I'm just,
listen, you're eating from the tree of knowledge, brother. Positive intent, good intent, and all that sort of stuff. That's all knowledge, and we're making judgments on that knowledge. Once you make judgments, determination of what we think he is, we're basically now. This guy now, we make a judgment of disgrace. Yeah. Now you need to just look at, and I'm going to try and, what am I going to do? You don't need to do anything, but I'm just, for the sake of communication, how do I, I'm going to try and share this. Share. He's meddling in the state's property.
Oh, of course.
And once there's a claim that's been made, it's now the property of the state. And if no one can see that, the claim is now property. It's of the state. And once you start speaking, right, you're now property of the state. So let's listen.
Penny told the pair of detectives he was on his way to the gym after leaving class at City Tech from the J Street Metro Tech station in Brooklyn. At the 2nd Avenue stop, he said Neely got on, started to yell and threaten passengers.
Some guy came in, he's like, whipped his jacket off, and he's like, I'm going to kill everybody.
Several witnesses took the stand, including NYPD Detective Brian McCarthy, who interviewed Penny. McCarthy testified he didn't tell Penny that Neely had died during that 5th Precinct interrogation. And when Penny was questioned about why he decided to get involved in the first place, he said,
I'm not a confrontational guy. Like in the Marine Corps, I felt the need to...
He said, I'm not a confrontational kind of a guy. Well, how are you going to prove that claim? Yeah, I'm not a confrontational kind of a guy. Well, you've got 2 guys interviewing you, and they're basically marking that down and going, well, hang on a moment, we're going to find out about that.
Step in, there's women and children on the train. Did you feel like someone's life was in danger? 100%.
Penny told the pair of detectives he was on his way to the gym after leaving class at City Tech from the J Street Metro Tech station in Brooklyn. At the 2nd Avenue stop, he said Neely got on, started to yell and threaten passengers.
Some guy came in, he's like, whipped his jacket off, and he's like, I'm going to kill everybody.
Several witnesses took the stand, including NYPD Detective Brian McCarthy, who interviewed Penny. McCarthy testified he didn't tell Penny that Neely had died during that 5th Precinct interrogation. And when Penny was questioned about why he decided to get involved in the first place, he said,
I'm not a confrontational guy. Like in the Marine Corps, I felt the need that to, step in. There's women and children on the train. Did you feel like someone's life was in danger? 100%.
Penny told the...
You see, it keeps going back to, I'm not a confrontational kind of a guy, and he stepped in. So now he's the property of the state, right? And there's an injury, harm and loss injury issue here. It needs to be investigated, right? Because he risked his own life, and now his own life now needs to be protected from innocent people. It's the opposite way. It's a complete head fuck, this shit, boys. It's like until you realise that each word you speak ain't your word, and that's why stop going into these interviews and saying I'm not a confrontational kind of a guy. Well, now you're up for investigation, and you're going to be in the shit. I know everything's in reverse in this world, boys.
Pair of detectives, he was on his way to the gym after leaving class at City Tech from the J Street Metro Tech station in Brooklyn. At the 2nd Avenue stop, he said Neely got on, started to yell and threaten passengers.
Some guy came in, he's like, whipped his jacket off, and he's like, I'm going to kill everybody.
Several witnesses took the stand, including NYPD detectives.
So there's nothing more to sort of play in that one, but it just gives a very snippet of an example. Just how simple. Can we switch screen off?
See, to me, it seems like a good brother who did a good thing. I may be eating from the tree on this. Tell me if I am, but it seems like a good brother, and it seems like the system could have better things to do and bigger fish to fry.
No. This is the system, mate. And and you make a claim, that's the fish. That's the fishes of men. And these agents are out to bite your ass. Doesn't matter if you're the poorest, lowest piece of scumbag on the side of the street, or you're whatever you want to believe you are. You're going to be there for the picking, and that's the rude awakening. Because none of it makes sense to people. It even says on that article, right? You can even see it. It says it's a disgrace. Well, is it? Is it a disgrace? That's showing you there's an opposite side to this. And the opposite side is this. Whose property is this? I don't know how to put this message through. It all comes back to property and the message. And is the message getting through? Because we like to look for heroes. We like to look for, oh, wow, he did a good job. This guy was amazing. Wow. Really? Well, that was the same of Job. Job was apparently, there was a claim over Job's head. He was the greatest. And there was a big lesson in there. So, and if it was true, let's see if he, how he handled the claim of the greatest. And there's a great story in that. So any claim, you might be the nicest fella in the world, but you're making a claim on the possessor's property. Well, you're now going to be scrutinised. You're going to be under the investigation of the prosecution.
Well, before the government said here that all property belongs to the state, before that,
that's right.
I'm led to believe before that, previous to that time though, there was private property and people thought ownership was a good thing at one point in time before this statutory system came about.
Yeah, but that boys and girls, that's all just extra information. This was, if you go back right into the scripture in the very beginning, it all came back to possession, which is very simple concept. and it's only been complicated by man. And the simple concept of this is, if you take a shoestring, if you take a term, a word, an utterance, anything, you're now subject to the laws and jurisdiction of this world.
But who are they to subject anyone to anything?
They are the property of the possessor, and without they, how would anyone? How would the wheat from the chaff be sorted?
I'd like to see that.
Well, you are seeing it when your ass is locked up and thrown in jail. That's the only way you see it.
Well, I'd like to see without the system, if the separation would occur.
You see, to me, brother, it sounds like you're trying to get out of something, and it sounds like there's where's the humbleness there to realise, you know, hey, what am I doing in this? Why am I thinking this way? Because if you're thinking about it this way, rather than thinking, okay, so it's all the property of the states. And it's easier for the people to understand it's the property of the states, but who can conceive that the state is the property of the possessor? It's the possessor who put the system together. Yeah.
How are we on unequal footing, though, if we're the property of the possessor as well, though? How are we on unequal footing with whoever wants to create a system? Seems like we should be on equal footing with any creator of any other system, because we're all the property of the possessor, right?
What do you mean equal footing? You make a claim, that's it. End of story. That's about as equal as you get.
Well, if I make a claim to a friend, nothing happens, though. It's just these people who dress up in costumes who have a problem with the claims.
No, these people who dress up in costumes, it's just what people believe they're dressed up in costumes. Their role is to basically is to hand you a receipt of claims that have been made out of that mouth that you've been known to use, and few, if any, are able to curtail the tongue. Few, if any, are able to change what comes out of that mouth. That's the problem that is going on here, boys and girls. And like that interview when that man was in there, he goes, "I'm not a confrontational kind of a guy." Well, actually, he was. If you look at the video, he's on the ground with some other guy. You didn't see what the other guy was doing. I mean, the guy might end up suing him. You just don't know, because when you're making claims, the whole system involves what comes out of the mouth, and what comes out of the mouth is the program. I think it's going to escape most, if any, all people. It seems to be the most difficult thing to even conceive.
I believe I understand it almost fully. The issue is just the why.
What do you mean the why? The why is, hey, the why is enjoy living in this, on this planet, but consider, whose planet it is. Don't go just walking around thinking you know something about it, because the legion, the they, the them. Well, they're gonna show you how wrong you are. Their job, if anything, is to show you the opposite perspective. Because you eat from the tree of knowledge, and once you eat from the tree of knowledge, now there's a disgrace, right, in the system. There's a disgrace. How can the system persecute this kind, wonderful man? It's a disgrace.
What if I think what they're doing is a disgrace, brother?
Or thinking it. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
Okay, I think from what I'm hearing, the comments and the feedback from the other brothers, right, is that you got to keep it to the lowest common denominator. You got to really keep it simple. Stay on the script and listen carefully. Don't overthink, and don't make it too confusing or don't overthink it. That's the problem. When you start thinking too much, and thinking that you know too much, and you're not going there with a pure heart and good conscience and peace and love in your heart, now you're going to trip up and you're going to complicate it.
Well, because in the interview, sorry to interrupt there, brother, if I may. how's that going to work in an interrogation? Because this is where it all seems to end up in the witness, or you go to an interview room, and it all unfolds in the interview room. And if anyone's been in the interview room, that's where it all happens. And if you're not listening to what's coming out of their pie hole, and you're not dealing with possession and the offers that are coming before one, then one can have as pure heart as possible, but you're still in jail because of your pure heart.
I meant you got to listen to the words and stick on the script. Like, make sure you key on the possessive pronouns. Don't get off the possessive pronouns. Stay on script, right? And also, like, I noticed that they always ask, or they always say, hey mate, it doesn't make any sense. They always say that. It does, even in this one here, right? It doesn't make sense. What are you saying? It doesn't make sense, right? Well, the word sense, what does sense mean?
Well, it doesn't make sense because it's like confusion. Confusion's got to do with knowledge. You're in possession of knowledge, and it's confusion because we're all trying to understand language. It's a technology that doesn't belong to you, and you do not understand it at all. Who can understand it? I'm yet to find anyone who actually understands this technology, because until we're constantly asking, we're constantly dealing with these legion, and especially here in this part of the world, they will shut you down at every corner. Their role is to hand you the wooden idols, right? Victoria Police, defective notice. There's always a notice they're handing over to you, and once they give you a receipt, it's kind of like a verification of a claim that's been made. If you bring up terminology, the centurions down here are very, very well trained in flipping everything. Unfortunately, the people find it extremely difficult to flip the technology, flip the perspective, flip what they're hearing. They're stuck in a real difficult paradigm, which is a perspective that it seems to be very hard for their perception to be opened. The eyes are like clouded. It's like foggy. Very hard to somehow see past the foggy lenses that one is perceiving from. Once they're wrapped in possession and they're looking for, what are most people? They're looking for a justice, or they're looking for, like in this case, he wasn't claiming to be a hero, really? Well, hang on a moment. Once you start telling the story, that makes you a hero, because everyone loves a story, and from the story, that's what makes one a hero. Okay, if you go along with the story, right? People love you, and then they hate the question. They'll go,
and that's why they say it doesn't make sense. Could you?
There you go, because we're only we want the story, and when you start asking the question, that doesn't make sense, because the story is what everyone is drunk on. Tell me what happened. I'm drunk. I'm drunk on telling. I'm drunk on my own delusions. I'm deluded because I think I'm fucking helping someone. I'm pulling someone out of the fucking truck. Well, it should be your fucking duty, and do it, and shut that dirty mouth that you believe you own. Do it. Help everyone around you, and shut the fuck up. Stop looking for praise, and stop trying to make a claim and talking every bit of shit that comes out of one's mouth. Do it. Live it instead of preaching it. And preaching it is when you start going into an interview, that's now making things public. And now it's international, universal, everywhere. Everyone can access this bullshit that we've just looked at. Keep it private, boys and girls, amongst one another, right? And see that no man knows it. How many times have you gone into the King James book and allegedly Jesus goes, see that no man knows it? And what did every man do? Went out and fucking preached it. And went out there and go, this is what the arsehole Jesus did. He did this, this, and this, right? And yet he warned them, see that no man knows it, right? And then they go out and tell everyone that every man knows it. So this is what's going on.
There you
see
go.
that no man knows it. I don't know if you can find one scripture that's got that in it. I'll tell you what, you might start connecting the dots here, boys and girls.
Yeah, and when you say sense, when they say sense, that could also mean money.
Well, sense is just another terminology, brother. You're in possession of knowledge. What do you know about any of that shit?
Yeah,
come back as a child, and as a child, you've got to ask, what does a child know about cents or dollars or anything like that?
So when they say that doesn't make sense, so says you. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, you can say, oh, do you agree with that? Or you can just go, what do you mean?
What do you mean by that? Sense.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah.
That's much it.
Ask them, what do you mean by sense?
Yeah, don't even bring it up. What do you mean by that? As soon as you bring up sense, you're starting to speak their terminology, and now it's contagious. It's coming out of your mouth.
What do you mean by that? That makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I know it's a bit of a head fuck, brothers, but listen, it's bringing yourself back to zero, where when you're dealing with these agents, you want to really be careful bringing up any sort of terminology, and if you do bring up terminology, especially in this part of the world where we live here, once you start talking, you're fucked, and that you're gonna be the beauty of it is if you go to court and you manage to fumble your way through it like I did, because there was times when I was corralled into jurisdiction of guilty or not guilty, and I said, fuck it, I'll just go guilty. And then the judge, he was able to proceed in the court, and then he went over to the prosecution. They started to, read out all the charges and the hell of a list that was there. He's a bad boy, blah blah blah. And then the judge looks over to me and he goes, "What do you want to say about that?" And I go, "Well, how am I to understand any of that unless someone told me I was there?" And the judge goes, "I'm not going to have this in my bloody court." He goes, if you don't know that you were there, well, he goes, how can you plead guilty if you don't know that you were there? And he says, adjourn. I'm not going to deal with this in my court. And that's when it was revealed. The cat was let out of the bag. In other words, they can't have it in the court when you're asking the question, are you saying I was there? And that was the question of I cannot have you in my court if you do not know that you were there. This is the head fuck of all head fucks. And if this call has been recorded, then you might realise that the biggest thing is this thing in court down here. They go by that 100%, and they go by the where and the when. And if you do not stick to that question, are you the king of the owners? Are you say that I am? Are you saying that I was there? You're going to be put through the mincer, and that's all I do here is stick with that question. Are you saying I was there? And in fact, they will shoot you down with atomic bombs here in this part. They'll blow you up. They'll do whatever they can to stop you asking that question. They'll throw you off. They'll throw anything at you.
What question is it again?
The question is, are you saying I was there? Because are you saying I was there is all linked in with, where and when. Okay? The first lawful direction. Okay? Where and when is location and date. Court can't proceed without a location and a date. It's a verification of a time and place. And once you plead guilty, you're pleading guilty, you verify a where and when.
Hey, Boone, were you all there though? That's the question. Were you all there?
What do you mean? Was I all there? What does that mean?
That was, it's a pun. Like, are you all there? Like, mentally.
Oh, well, they do ask in this part of the world, you know, are you on drugs or are you on medication? Because most fucking people down in this part of the world, they're all on medication. Everyone that you driving, and if they drive off the road, it means they've just taken that too much medication. So everything's about medication in this part of the world, and most people are medicated in some in most capacities. It's just seems to be the reality of how to deal with possession is by being heavily medicated.
Do you ask, like, what do you mean by where, or how?
No, I don't ask about, because that's looking for knowledge.
Are we talking about all there?
What are you saying?
No, I mean, when they ask you, were you there?
No, they don't ask you that, right? You're asking, are you saying I was there? The problem is, it's that these questions are they're very powerful, but the problem is when you're being bombarded with a screaming court and bombing you at every angle, it's gonna throw you off. It's gonna throw you off, and you got to realise few, if any, come through this, because the simplicity of these questions, fear will arise inside the body. Because we're in possession of knowledge, and it's going to be very hard to come through, because the simplicity of these questions won't allow us to to come through it until we've been daily mentally emptying out the trash and reducing oneself back to zero. And that's why nothing makes sense in this world, is because whose world do you think it is? And the more drunk in possession that we are, the more senseless everything seems.
Like, where and when are almost impossible to prove unless you open your mouth.
Someone's catching on. There you go, brother.
You need to verify it. Someone needs to verify it. That happened to me. I'm not sure if everybody wants to hear this, but I got a call from Canada Health Department. They were quarantined in Canada during the pandemic, so-called pandemic times. And I had arrived allegedly in this country, and I had a call from the health department, and they asked me, "Hey, when did you arrive?"
There you go.
So someone from this premise, from this address and this phone number arrived just recently. I'm just inquiring to find out when that happened.
Yep.
So I asked,
arrival's got to do with where and when.
Yeah, when did you arrive? And I said, well, why don't you tell me when
Yeah, beautiful.
you arrived? You tell me.
Yep.
And
That's right.
anyway, I asked her what was her name, and she gave me her name and all that. And I said, okay, well, she said, oh, it looks like you arrived June 21st, and said, could you confirm that? I said, well, let me go take a look at my records. I said, how do you know that? So that's what my records say, the computer. I said, let me go take a look at my records. So I come back. I said, well, my records say June 20th.
Yeah, well, you just want to be careful going on about my records and all that shit. But anyway, it's okay. Go on.
Yeah. This you're gonna get a kick out of this one. Then she said, okay, let me change it on my end. I said, wait a minute. How do you know that it was the 20th? And how do you know, why did you say it was the 21st? Like, how did you come up with that? And I said, are you allowed as a government official to start changing documents and records?
Yes, they can change anything based on what comes out of your mouth.
Right. And she said, oh, that's an interesting point.
Yep.
If I have authority to start changing a record. And I said, well, how do you know what day it is? And she said, she started laughing. And I said, well, do you know what day and time it is? And she said, yeah. I said, well, how do you know that? Oh, because I looked that up on my computer. I said, there you go. You have to look it up to determine when it was. So how do you know when it was? She goes, hey, you got a point.
Yeah. Look, it's a good start to sort of help to undo the it's like talking to agents. It can be fun initially, but you want to be talking less and less and less as the more experience that you come into, the less you want to speak and the more questions you ask. Like down here, everyone's got a vote in this part of the world, right? So we send these letters back to the voting. They call it the Australian Electoral Commission, and we've been sending these notices back. Dear officer, upon consideration, is there a signed agreement between you and me on a piece of paper before the judge? And so they photocopy all these, and there's a notice failure to vote. So they need everyone in this country to vote, right? Because then they're able. Then once you vote, you're now merchandise. They can pretty much buy and sell you and do whatever they want with you. So what we do with these notices, we've been sending these notes back with these questions, and then these questions, they put it together and they basically go matter of the name, and it's listed. They call it for the first mention hearing at Ringwood Magistrates Court on the 28th of November, blah, blah, blah. And they call it a contravention, right? It's a contravention of an act. Down here, everything's an act, a section of the referendum provisions act and so forth. Now, once you identify with anything, that's why the notices are so good. That's why the IRS notices are so good. And these notices that we're dealing down here, they're equivalent to the IRS. It's all the same. It's the tree of knowledge. Once you take from the tree of knowledge, it's the chase begins. It's the pursuant. Now, you asked before, maybe Dominion, about why. Why is the agents out there doing these things? Haven't they got anything else better to do? Well, no. Once a claim has been made, it's now the chase. If you ever watched the Bugs Bunny and the Roadrunner and all those cartoons, there was a claim made. Now it's a pursuant. Now there's a chase. The chase to seek you out, to look you up, to hunt you down, to bring you before an interview and before the courts. And then once you start seeing pursuant, right, this is all here on the documentation. They're there to pursue your sorry ass. They're there to basically see that you take possession. You are required, right, to take possession and send the court the enclosed material, which is here, responses of the accused, which is allegedly me or whatever, and the penalties. February 1st, February 21, this was provided, the register and the accused. So to me, what I do, if anything, with this particular one, I send it to the court, and they probably can, I probably could go to the court, but down here, it's endless. You go to court over every little thing, and it's kind of like, well, let them come to you. If the agents or the coppers, if they want to come and pick you up, then they can take you directly to the judge, and I'm happy with that, because I'll go before you come to me with these documents, with this information, bring me to the judge to verify a signed agreement between you and me on a piece of paper. So they will still find a way to bring you to the judge, and that's when you are before the judge. Then you ask, well, why am I here? And then you go from there. Are you saying I was there? And that's basically it. Are you the king of the owners? Are you the king of the Jews? Are you saying that I am? It's that simple. no terminology, no nothing needs to be brought up in court. But somehow they will extract it from the mouth of man. Any knowledge that you've been in possession of, it will somehow secrete out of that mouth. And now we've got instant jurisdiction. And I find the charge is proven as the judge will verify what comes out of that mouth. So you can go about in registering whatever you bloody like in life, right? But it's what you believe and it's what comes out of your mouth. And this is the most difficult thing for anyone to possibly conceive. Even that very first interview that we had before on this call was that guy making a claim, right? I'm not a confrontational kind of a guy, really. Well, now there's he's opened himself up for prosecution because he's just now brought himself into the public. He's now brought himself into international media. Okay, and now the people will find it a disgrace because the people are the ones who are the disgrace. It's the people who are out of line. You know, is it the people who are basically eating drunk on this knowledge of I'm not a confrontational guy? Well, you've just objected to the very statement, and now you're showing evidence of a combatant, showing evidence of someone who is armed and dangerous. In fact, there's a movie that I just saw the other day, and he says once you take something, you're now lethal, you're now dangerous, you're now weaponized, and the state needs to seek you out and destroy you. It's the state who comes after you, right? With legion, they, them, us, our records indicate all of this. All of legion is out to get you because of being in pursuant of a claim. Being in pursuant needs to chase up what came out of that mouth. And the system works in perfection. And that's the perfection I'm talking about, Dominion and Bob, is the perfection is once the claim is uttered out of that rotten mouth that man believes is his, the chase begins instantaneously, without fault, without the agents. Who's going to pursue the claims and who's going to verify it? But the one who's in pursuant or who's being chased. Once they catch you, they will hear what they need to hear, and that'll come out of the pie hole of man. And if one cannot see this pursuant, right? How did I learn all this shit? The system is showing us right here, right now. The IRS is showing you right here, right now. What happens when you talk from that mouth? There's a chase, right? There's a chase now after you because you believe it's yours. You believe you're in possession of property that don't belong to you, and it's between your ears. That's what we can't hear or see because it's inside us. We've inserted it inside us like a program, and that is the most difficult, hardest thing to possibly see or even conceive. Why is it this way? Who the fruitcake really knows why. But if anything is to do the work and start unlearning, emptying out the trash between the ears, and that's the only way we'll come to some kind of peace in this world, if it's possible. You know, the brother went out the other day and you know, gets pulled over by the coppers and you know, for speeding or whatever. Now, sometimes it's very easy to start talking to these guys. I mean, if I said I did it, right? I did it because for whatever reason, this was done maybe, I don't know, what, 3 years ago when I was talking to the coppers over driving without whatever, a license or whatever. There was other cases before the court at the time, and I was like, oh shit, man, everything's kind of I was confused because I was also in possession at the time, and I made a whole lot of claims. I spoke to the agents, but I knew when I went to court there was an opportunity to deal with all of that, and that's what I believe I did in court, and that's the only arena. You can stuff up outside, but then they got you before the court, and then they want to hear what comes out of the mouth, and that's pretty much the bottom line. How can they verify anything unless you verify it in court? And even if they've got surveillance, they've got recordings, video, everything, you're the one who verifies everything out of that mouth. Any of this making sense? Probably not.
It makes a lot of sense, brother.
All right.
Go ahead, Bob.
So yeah. Look, I notice. Look, it's an upside down world, and a lot of stuff is completely topsy turvy, and it's going to be like that until you start seeing it from another perspective. And the only perspective is to look at, well, whose property again? Whose property is this? And every single time when you see that there's an injustice, start investigating. Oh, okay. Why do I think this way? Why am I thinking for the people? Is it the people? Once you start seeing that all people went through the education system, which is the programming system, and if we've all been programmed by these systems, it's the very system that now is going to prosecute you. It doesn't matter how wonderful you think someone is, you open yourself up for prosecution as soon as you open that mouth, because that mouth that you've adopted a program, you've adopted a program that ain't your program, and you've adopted it for your own at a very young age as a child, and you've inserted it into yourself, and now you're a grown adult, and now you have children yourself, and now you want to protect the kids from all the bullshit that you've gone through, and yet there's nothing to protect the kids from. You let them go through the school of hard knocks is to be indoctrinated, is to go through the most hardcore cult. If I said to you boys, I grew up in probably the biggest cult of all. You know, the JWs, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're about the best kind of people you want to hang out with growing up. They'll head fuck you more than anything. And then the state, they're equivalent. The state does a really good job. So if you can survive it and come through it with all that doctrine and the beliefs and the bullshit, then there's a road to unlearning the propaganda, and that's why once you start to break the assumptions down, you no longer start reacting, oh, I'm no good at this, I can't do this, and you start giving yourself excuses why you can't investigate these so-called state offers. And once you start to talk to yourself this way, it's very hard to unfuck yourself from these programs. But if you just go slowly and you be easy on yourself, you know, it's possible. But you are dealing with forces, boys and girls, that are way out there. And when I say way out there, you need to be dealing with the blow dryer when someone's screaming at your face and you've got this blow dryer screaming in your face. Can you deal with that? Can you handle that? You know, are you able to deal with this? If there's any anger or anything in the body, turn it into a question, right? And start asking, what do you mean? Don't ask questions that are loaded with knowledge. Ask questions that are a 0 point. Like, what do you mean? And put everything back onto the other. Why are you talking to me like this? You know, is there something I can do to help? Yeah, what do you mean? Why are you saying that? Are you saying I was there? You know, a lot of questions one can be asking, but asking neutral questions without copying the words from the informant or from the prosecutor or the judge. Suddenly it's on the mouth that you've been known to speak, and now you're speaking it, and that brings you into jurisdiction in a blink of an eye. So these are the things, you know, does one consider?
Daniel, I had an interaction with a police officer one time on the side of the road, and after he turned the lights on, and he looked at the ID, and he asked me, was that the current address? And I said I had just moved to the area, and he asked me, when did you move here? And in that one question, that's time and location, right? It's the same thing you're talking about. In that one question, he's establishing both. I just thought it just came to mind while you were talking a while ago.
Yeah,
I thought it was
that's fine. But again, it still came back to when is now he can seek out knowledge because you've given him knowledge, which the identification I moved. Right. Yeah. Once you bring up the I statement of I did anything, right. You know, I'm not a dangerous kind of a guy. I'm not a you know, this and this. You know, I can give you 1,000 scenarios of those examples, and once we speak from the I am statement, well, now I can go. When did you move here? I can investigate you much more. Yeah. And these guys, they're right on point. They're so on point that they can bamboozle anyone in an instant. If I may, there's the brother right here next to me, and he went through a bit of a scenario the other day. What's this one? Are you a, what did he say? And are you a sovereign, what, Mark? Sovereign citizen. So Copper asked this, did he? Yeah. So down here, he was asked the question, the copper asked, are you a sovereign citizen? Right? Well, has anyone over where you been asked that question?
I've been asked that by the police and the judge before.
What's that? Say again.
I've been asked by the judge and the police that.
There you go. Are you a sovereign citizen? So that means another word for that. Are you a hardcore claimant that we need to seek out and in pursuant and chase, right? Because you're a sovereign citizen. You're acting of your own undertaking, and once you're acting of your own undertaking, you're a combatant of the state. Can anyone see that?
Yes.
This is who wants to listen to this, boys? I'm not joking. This kind of talk is enough to send anyone sick, you know, in themselves to think, holy shit, what the hell are we dealing with? And we're trying to escape these centurions, these coppers, and yet these are the ones who are in the face that you believe you own, and they're the ones asking you these questions. And then they go, what's he say here, Mark? It says, I explain myself to you, and you explain yourself to me. So these are the coppers. They're asking these questions. I explain myself to you. Can you explain yourself to me? Right? How are you going to deal with that question? See how everything's about explanation, which is reason? You need to reason with the beast. Reason with the wolf. Right? What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with that question? This is the agent is asking the question. I explain myself to you. Can you explain yourself to me? How are you going to deal with that question? These are the sort of questions the wolf is asking you down here before they confiscate everything you believe you own.
How did the brother respond?
Oh, well, unfortunately, he didn't have he didn't use, excuse me, rephrase, he didn't use a recording, which I was like, oh, I wish you did. But this question, see, what happens is the wolf is always going to engage you in reason or in explanation, or talk to the wolf, okay? What the brother did, look, sometimes you can go into making a claim or explaining yourself. It depends on what's on the mind at the time. If you're not sort of ready for these guys to fall out of the sky, they'll appear anywhere down here, and you wonder where they came from. They just fell out of the sky, and next thing there's about 10 cop cars all around you. Anyone ever experienced that?
Multiple times.
I love you, brother. They just fall out of the sky, don't they? Where do they come from? No one really knows.
Exactly.
No one really knows. They just fall out of the sky. Holy shit, you guys. I was just enjoying this music, and suddenly you guys are all over me. There's blue lights flashing everywhere. And here we are. Game on. So I explain myself to you. Can you explain yourself to me? Well, who am I to do any of that? Do I know you? Write that down. Who am I to do any of that? Who am I to explain myself to you? Do I know you? Hello?
I'm writing it down, brother.
These are questions that if you do not consider, you're going to be burned up the stake here. And was it true? The witches who were burnt at the stake hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they all claimed, I'm not a witch. Now we're going to burn you. There you go. We've got business with these witches. They're all making claims. They're brewing up something that they shouldn't be. Bloody claimants. Whatever you want to call them. Who am I to explain myself to you? Do I know you? That's it. And then the agent will go again. Do you buy fuel? Do you buy coffee? Right? Well, what do you mean? Do I buy this and do I buy that? What was that in relation to, bro? Huh? Can you wake up? No, what was that question?
That's it.
So these are the questions they're asking.
Agreement.
Oh,
It's about agreement.
it's about agreement.
Do you agree with that?
So do you buy fuel? Do you buy coffee? Right?
Do you agree with that device you use?
Right. So is this your car? Do you agree with this device you use? Is that what the copper said?
Yeah. Is there an agreement?
So these coppers down here,
You're going around the car. Do you agree that this tire is...
so
Do you agree that
the
this
coppers down here, they're now, this is how quickly that now this is how quickly they have been updated with this agreement question. Right? They go around the car and they look and they go, oh, do you agree the tyres are bald here? Do you agree this, and this?
is a protrusion?
Right? So to me, as soon as you hear, do you agree? Oh, this is how they're asking now. They're getting you to, they're asking the questions that I would ask, yeah? Or anyone would ask. So now they're flipping it on us. Do you agree there's this happening? Do you agree that, you know, first of all, is this your car? What the fruitcake do you mean by your? And then you'll go, do you agree the time is? And in the interview, they always go, do you agree the time is? And then they start asking for you to agree. Do you agree with this device you use? Right? What's that? You are speaking. What's that? Why are you speaking? Can't read your writing. What's that?
Why are you speaking in abstract?
All right. So when you're asking questions, the wolf or the copper will go, why are you speaking abstract? That's another good question. Why are you speaking abstract? Again, what do you mean? What's that supposed to mean?
Hey, how about sister?
What do you mean by that?
There you go. Right? He's wanting to see what comes off that tongue. He's wanting to see what comes off that tongue, what he speaks. He wants to see if you're going to pick up that contagion. Is this your car? What do you mean by your? He's going to say to you, because if you start asking the question like I would start going, do you agree with that? They're going to go, yeah. I said, they're going to go, yeah, I agree with that. And then they're going to go, well, do you agree with this, this, and this? Well, I bring that question back. Well, there's many ways of dealing with agreement questions, because if they're trying to bring joinder to the name through agreement, because that's either through possession or any statement or any question they're bringing up, these questions they're asking, they're statements with questions, statement questions. Did anyone conceive that? Questions with statements? These are questions they're asking, but they're loaded. They're a loaded gun. Anyone can see how questions can be like a loaded gun?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So these questions, it's a bit like anything you say or do in the next moment is going to determine whether you opened yourself up for prosecution. Is this car yours? And what the fuck do you mean by your? Don't ever miss possession. You get out of the car. What do you mean by get? Do you agree with this device you use? Actually, a good one for that. Do you agree with the device? Do you agree with this device that you use?
Oh, did you sign an agreement? with
No,
us?
straight away I'll go, well, do you agree with that? There you go. So when they ask, do you agree? You go back, do you agree with that? Right? Everything's a mirror. If we're not exercising the mind in mirroring the question back to them, instant jurisdiction. Instantly. It happens faster than the speed of light. And we're wondering what the fruitcake just happened. Do you agree with that?
Do you agree with that?
There you go. So do you agree that the time is blah, blah, blah? Is that what you agree? You agree with that? Does that mean, are you saying, in other words, you could even say, you're the king of the Jews. Are you saying that I do? Right? Are you saying that I am? Do you agree with, because they'll say that you're using a device like a phone or whatever. Do you agree with that? And it says, are you saying I do? Right? These are questions, very important. Are you saying I do? It's a very fine line, boys and girls. These questions are like on bone and the marrow. It's like the marrow from the bone. There's a scripture about that. In asking the question, meditating on this. Why are you speaking in abstract? What's that supposed to mean? I know what you're doing. You know what I'm doing. Right? Do you agree with that? You can always put agreement back on them very, very in every sentence. And then when they say, do you agree with that? And you go, are you saying I do? That's you go, are you saying I do?
That's awesome.
Look, if you boys are just still on this call, it's a bit of a miracle, because this really is the head fuck workshop of all. And this is what's happening on a daily basis. Do you agree with that? Are you saying I do? Yeah? Can you see that, bro? Yeah. I know what you're doing. And what's that? Do you remember that interview that one of the coppers was talking to me about when I was allegedly speeding? He goes, is that the trajectory? He goes, is that the trajectory you'd like to go this evening? Like trajectory, what the fuck's that word?
He said, I think you said path. I think it was path.
What's that?
Wasn't it path? Is that the path you want to go down tonight?
Oh, I think he said trajectory. I don't know, it's a big word. But anyway, I said, what's that? What's that space? I said something, what did I say? I said, what's that? Or something like that. And he goes, anyway, there was another question I asked and he goes, exactly. In other words, he didn't know, it went nowhere because it's like this guy's, yeah, no knowledge, no information. Is this the trajectory or is this the path you're looking at going? Where's that? There you go. I said, where's that? And he goes, exactly, indeed, exactly, indeed. In other words, where is that? In other words, who the fruitcake bloody well knows? I do get a little excited sometimes. I know what you're doing. Just pick, what's this say? Just, what's that? Just pick out the
verbs and adjectives and pronouns.
Now, see, this is all
Right, pronouns. He says you're just picking out the pronouns.
He goes,
Possession,
I know what you're doing. You're just picking out the verbs,
the pronouns.
the adjectives and
I think
pronouns.
he said pronouns.
Or pronouns.
Possessive terms is called pronouns.
Yeah, they call possessive terms down here pronouns, and
You're just picking out the pronouns.
and you're just picking them out, right?
Yeah.
So they totally discount it, and that's why if I was to share with you what the barrister showed me when I went through the big journey some time ago, they literally underlined every question that was asked by me, and underlined, what do you mean by have? All was underlined in red texter. What do you mean by your in red texter? What do you mean by got in red texter? Circled like I've never seen on this planet before. Why was I shown this, boys and girls? Why was I shown it? I don't know. Was it right in front of me? Was it for me to see? And what was it? What did I believe I was looking at? Could I believe what I was looking at? Were they doing the same thing that I'm doing? What are they doing? What are they doing that I'm not doing? They're basically scrutinising every question, every little statement that someone is making. It's going to be completely scrutinised. So once you are explaining yourself, right, you need to start to investigate what does this explanation, what is explain mean? What am I doing when I'm explaining? Anyone ever know what to explain oneself?
What is it?
Well, if you look at it in the dictionary, it says you become the maker. You're now a giver.
Gracious.
You know, once you're a maker, you now give understanding. It's intelligible. So it's knowledge. It's now intelligence. It's now you're now explaining something. You now have an intelligence there, a program that you're passing on. So as a maker, you're in the know. There's knowledge, right? So now that there's knowledge, there's an interpreter. You've interpreted yourself. You've interpreted, explain yourself. Please, whenever you hear explain yourself, they're asking, please interpret what I'm saying. Please become the maker by being an interpreter. Make clear the cause or reason of an account of what you believe happened, right? Give. Because you giving something, you believe you're giving something, you're now the possessor, because you are now giving insight. You are now giving knowledge. You are now doing what that guy has done. He's now in the interview, he's now the maker. And now maybe he'll get a little bit of prison time because he's made quite a few claims in saving the lives of all these wonderful mothers and babies and everything because of this terrible perpetrator. And yet, you know, what came out of his mouth ended up, who knows. Once you're an interpreter and you assign meaning to something, you're explaining something. You're an interpreter. And that the whole story about Job was all about that, interpreter. Once you interpret, right, the devil or the demon or whatever went down to make an offer. Once you take that offer, it's interpretation. Now there's confiscation, pain and suffering to all men. Explain yourself. That's why we, you know, is that why there's the, you know, why are they chasing me? Why are they chasing me? Oh, surely there's something else they can go to. Surely there's something else that they can, you know, there's a lot more evil out in the world. Why are they chasing me for a shoestring that I fucking well made a claim of? That's not fair. Really? Why is it then if you go to jail that you're in jail because you took a shoestring, you're next to a murderer, you're next to a rapist, you're next to every single one because they're all the same terms. Every term is a term. Doesn't matter you're with a mass murderer, a mass ass kicking, whatever, or what, doesn't matter what one was charged for. You're put in the same bag because it's all the same. They're all terms. Terms you took. Property.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah.
Whenever the judge gave me the 2 days, what you just said just kind of rings true because I was in there literally for asking questions, and I was beside a guy who was in there for being caught with crack. And then you know what I'm saying? And then there's another guy in there with shooting somebody, and I'm in there for asking questions. So it's kind of just exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, but you're in there asking questions. You got to listen to what questions you're asking for, because is the question the statement, and that's also very hard to see. A lot of questions. How do I ask a question that's neutral, or do I ask a question that's loaded? And when you explain yourself to an officer or a judge that you're a carpenter or anything like that. The beauty of down here, the police officers, they're really, mate, they're so onto it down here. The average moron or the goyim, the people, right? If you put your faith in the people, oh, the people are so wonderful. Really? Down here, the people, oh my goodness. You really want to start thinking about, you know, if the people have gone through this programming, they've gone through the state, the people are the ones who are the, if there was a sin, have all the people fallen short, taken this property that don't belong to them, and even the brother, I don't know, he might have spoken something to the copper. He mentioned, oh, I'm a carpenter. Oh, and they go, what's that? See that? What's that? They flip it. Mate, they're onto it. These coppers, mate, they are onto it. I'll tell you if you tell me. Well, I already told you. If you can tell me. Now, this question they asked me, he says, I'll tell you if you tell me. And he says, well, go on, tell me. How are you going to ask that? Tell me. They put it back on you. And I go, you see, everything's the hot potato. Well, tell me now. Well, what makes you think I've got something to tell you? Do I know you? Who are you? I've got to tell you these things? What makes you think I know anything? We are all intelligent people, says the coppers down here. We're intelligent. Yeah, we're all programmed. But we dress it up in this fancy word, intelligent. How does the ego feel when someone says to you, you know what, Dominion or Bob or Peter, you guys are intelligent. You know about this shit that this fucking call's about, don't you? You know all about these things. This is intelligent. You guys are intelligent people. How does the ego feel? Oh, it feels very smart. It feels, you're dressing me up now. Yeah, I'm dressing you up, ready to fucking put you through the oven. Come out as a black fucking hog. So intelligence, this is how they speak to your little demon, to the little ego, right? They speak to you in a way of, oh, you're an intelligent fella. Come on, you can talk to me. Who the fuck does one think, what makes you think I fucking know anything? Intelligent. You're only intelligent because the teachers did a good job of you. They passed on the program to you, and what did you do? You inserted it up your ass, and you did it good, and you did a good job of yourself. Yeah. Now what are you going to do?
How did the situation with the brother end on the side of the road?
What's that?
How did the situation with the brother there end on the side of the road?
I'm just going through with you. He's writing all this stuff is what I'm writing down, what I've actually gone through, you brothers, is we're just talking to you about it. And someone says, I'm not very smart. Who said that? You?
No, the cop.
Oh, the cop goes, what did he say? I'm not very smart.
Yeah.
Oh, the cop goes, I'm not very smart. If you can explain what you were trying to do. You see the coppers, mate. You know why I love these coppers? Because, look, these coppers down here, mate, they've got to be the best in the whole world. They're so highly trained. They'll even reduce themselves to go to you and say to you, well, you know what? He'll even make the statement and you'll go, well, I'm not very smart. If you can explain what you're trying to do, it doesn't make sense. You see, they will dress up in wolf's clothing, or what's the sheep's clothing? I'm sorry, they'll dress up every single statement, and they're going to go a copper, and will go, oh, I'm not very smart. He goes, but if you can explain what you're trying to do, it doesn't make sense. Well, I'd go, well, if that's true, what you're saying, why would you be asking me such a dumb question? In other words, that's just setting you up for the trap, right? These are the questions the brother is sharing here with me. This is how the coppers are asking. And these coppers down here, they're highly trained. You won't find a better police force on this part of the world, mate, than down here in the Southern Hemisphere. This is Possession Island, and no one escapes anything down here unless you deal with these questions. Every man is going to go through the meat processor. You come out like a sausage. I'm not very smart. Imagine that. A copper asking that question. I'm not very smart. If you can explain what you mean, trying to do, what is that? What you're trying to do doesn't make sense. There you go. How would you deal with that question? I'm not very smart. Well, if you're not very smart, well, what makes you think I know what you mean if you don't know what it is I mean? Or you're not very smart.
It's both of us.
No, you can just go, well,
I know anything.
What is that supposed to mean? You just keep, look, if there are kids in the background, these are the questions you ask the kids. Hey, little kitty, I'm not very smart, but if you can explain to me what you're trying to do, it doesn't make sense. See what the kid asks. I reckon you get a better answer with the kid. Ask the kid and say, hey, what do you reckon about this question, kids? I'm not very smart. Oh, Dad, are you trying to pull the wool over my eyes? Because they know the dad's pretty smart.
It's a brilliant question.
Yeah. And the kids will see the bullshit that you're talking, and they'll love you for it. They're not going to get upset with you, right? I'd be asking these questions to the kids, right? Let the kids be indoctrinated so that they can find these questions in every doctrine. In every doctrine is a question. Because without the doctrine, how can one possibly find the question in the statement? And is there a question for every answer? And is that made in heaven? And is that what makes things perfect? The perfect balance. And when it goes topsy-turvy is when there's what? Statement for statement. Explanation for explanation. Now you're starting to speak the agent's language. Once you do, what's going to happen? How easy is it to fall in the shit? That's a good question. And if you've got kids, ask that questions. I'm not very smart, says the wolf, right? Are you going to trust the wolf? If you can't explain what you're trying to do, it doesn't make sense.
He said, I'll explain myself to you.
And I explain myself to you. Well, I explain myself to you. Yeah? Would you agree with that? The brother asked that question. Do you agree with that? And they still come back once you bring up a term like a carpenter or a trade or anything. They've got enough jurisdiction to write you out a ticket. But the grace about all this is you can always send this paperwork back to the state, and it can be dealt with the state. So how do we deal with it? So the name is whatever his name is, Robert blah blah, Bob, or whoever his name is. We go to Joe Blow upon consideration. If one may explain in writing, what is this? This is.
I don't know if that's right.
Okay. Oh, hang on a sec. What did we do? Hang on, ticking. Okay, so we're just sort of going through some of the things. Explain. I wouldn't be putting explain there. The terms hold, take, if may. Okay, I'm just going through a couple of things here on the paperwork. Signed agreement between you and me. Okay, and verifying a business. Now, one thing I've learned also, because sometimes the brother, he'd go into court and he'd do things, and I'd learn from him what didn't work, and then it's a bit of a tag team. And then I go to court and I learn things what he didn't do. It all comes back to bringing up terms, and that's why it keeps coming back. The less you bring up, the better it's going to be. And that's why that question, are you saying I was there? It still comes back to the lowest denominator. I wouldn't even talk about common. What's common about it? It's a denomination of zero. And if you bring everything back to zero, then it's very unlikely, very hard for there to be jurisdiction in the court. And once you bring up any terminology, and that can be from sovereign citizen to whatever, any I am statements. In fact, I think one of the brothers sent me something before. Who was it? Okay.
Even repeating a term back to them in court can get you in trouble, I've found.
Yeah, that's right, brother. That's spot on. Once you start talking their language, oh boy. Now they're rubbing their hands and they're going, oh yeah, I love this shit. And it's like, I think one of the brothers sent the jurisdiction, the court roll. I listened to that a little bit. I might actually just play it on just real quickly, just as a bit of a, hang on a second. I might just put it through. Just give me a second. Just as a slight exercise. There you go. All right, I'm going to just fuck around with this for a second. There you go. Who's the possessor of all things? That's what you want to look at, boys and girls. It's a hell of a concept. Who's the possessor of all things? If that can be embedded in the back of that brain and in the heart, wow, there may be hope for anyone. Let's listen to this bullshit. I just see, without the bullshit, you see, there's always the flowers in things, because without the propaganda, it's very hard to go through the gurus that are everywhere. And that's why a guru always likes to come across, he likes something, he knows something, okay? Hang on a second, let's get this bloody thing, hang on a second. What is going on with this thing? Anyway.
I'll need to go to swim.
You want to do it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wait. I'll wait for this to come up, boys. Just hold on for a second.
Shook their hand at the end and all sorts of shit.
Okay. So now, sometimes the fuck ups that can happen out there in the world of the coppers, are they fuck ups, or are they an opportunity? It's kind of like this. I learned through all the so-called fuck-ups. I learned through all the fuck-ups that I had with the coppers, and sometimes I even knew that I shouldn't be doing it, but I did it because I wanted to see the effects, the consequences to it. Because if I didn't do it, would I have learnt or unlearnt what I'm doing now?
I can't believe.
What I can't believe.
Can't believe is that it's like they've been studying us.
Yes. So
doing exactly,
okay.
They did
So
exactly what we've been doing.
what's going on down here? This is really, really important. Now, what if I said to you boys, this is a next? Imagine this is like a Japanese martial arts of Aikido. Now, if I said to you, I've been doing training in Japanese martial arts for the last 10 years, and with the body. And there's also martial arts with the tongue. Now, if I said to you down here, when the coppers disappear off the street, guess what they're doing? They're in training. They're studying. Who do you think they're studying? They're studying the questions. They're studying what we're doing. They always are studying. They investigate. They study everything that you're doing, right? So what are they doing? I'm not doing. I'm going to study them. Now, what's so hard about that, boys and girls? Why can't we study the system? And whose system is it? Who put it together? Anyone know that? Well, sure, there's a whole lot of gurus out there that'll say this, and this, but whose property is every particle, and who can prove anything what one is saying? So I'm just going to go through a couple of these little things, and this is really important. These coppers, they're so on point down here. It's actually mind blowing. That's why it's if there's such thing as credence, the hat. Taking off the hat to these guys, they don't miss a beat. Not a beat. What are we doing? Dropping the ball? So learn from the masters, mate, and then you go to court and you learn from the masters of the universe. because without these guys, how are you ever going to change the programs that have been that you've taken for your own, and start to go, start complaining about what's going on in the world, and start looking at people as the people power and all that shit. How much power does the people have? How much does the people have when you're lining up and they're about to fill you full of lead? Where's all your followers now? Who's coming to save you? Are the people coming out to save you? Man, think about that, boys and girls. All right, so let's look at this this propaganda down here with this guy.
Courtroom dialogue, judge and accused. Judge, Mr. Bard, you are here today to answer to the charges brought against you. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty? Accused, Your Honor, before I can enter any plea, I am here by special appearance solely to challenge.
See, this is all propaganda. And without propaganda, how would we be able to unfuck ourselves to such a degree? So that's why this kind of courtroom role play, challenging jurisdiction, does it challenge them? Yes, it is a challenge, and that's why you won't win, because any challenge is a combatant, and it's a contest. It's a contradictor. So a challenge is there's the term down here they use is contradictor. So you're contrary to the one in front of you. There's an objection to the one in front of you, which is the system, the informant, the prosecutor. They're the ones who are bringing the claim, claiming you've made a claim of possession.
The jurisdiction of this court. I require the prosecution to prove on the record that this.
Now you're requiring, another word for require is for you to take possession. I mean, if you want to go down this way, great. But it happened real quick in the beginning. I'll go back again.
You. How do you plead?
Good. You. That's what, now see, you, and if I was to say that you is always aligned with the identification of I am. So when you hear you, it's an offer. If you don't deal with that offer in that split second, you've automatically gone into jurisdiction. It's not easy, yeah? What do you reckon about that, boys? Anyone there?
We're here. Yeah, that's a tough one to do right off the top, for sure.
Have a listen to this.
Guilty or not guilty?
Right? Guilty or not guilty? They need the guilty or not guilty is the verification of where and when. Once you go into guilty, it's now proven that there was a time and a date, a location, where and when. That's guilty or not guilty, verification. So when they're asking from the very beginning.
Courtroom dialogue, judge and accused. Judge, Mr. Bard, you are here today to answer to the charges brought against.
You are here today. Why am I here? Okay, there's charges brought against you, right? And then you can ask. You say, why am I here? And then they will go from that point onwards, which will be. Hang on.
You. How do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Now it's very hard that these questions. This is like it's like a martial arts of a third or fourth den. After 20 years of unfucking yourself, you're able to ask the simplicity questions, and they start working. So rather than to flip yourself out, keep it very simple. what do you mean? Or normally when the judge, for me, goes straight into guilty or not guilty, I just go straight into, are you saying I was there?
Accused. Your Honor, before I can enter any plea.
Before I, right? Now, he's already establishing jurisdiction.
I am here by special appearance solely to challenge the jurisdiction of this court. I require the prosecution to prove on the record that this court has both subject matter and personal jurisdiction over me and this matter.
You see, I probably won't go too much into this shit, but it's a rabbit warren. You're in possession, you're in knowledge, and it's basically the judge is going to put a plea in for you, right? Whenever you come there, and you boys probably have had some experience with this kind of bullshit, spewing out some kind of program. This is a jurisdiction program. That's all it is. It's a terminology. Once you bring up terminology, it's jurisdiction.
Judge, this is a criminal case, and this court has jurisdiction over such matters. You need to enter a plea. Accused. Your Honor, I do not waive any rights and do not
Now you're speaking negatives. I do not. And I waive. Who the fuck are you to waive anyone? Waive the right? So it's very...
See jurisdiction. I respectfully request that the prosecution prove on the record.
He's talking respectfully. Now, do you boys recall when the judge was hearing someone talk about, oh, I respect and all that, and the judge goes, no, there's no respect here. That's no respect, because we're talking about respect. How can there be respect without an understanding? You're speaking from your monologue, so there can't be a respect. You're going straight into contradictory, into jurisdiction. It's just madness, actually.
Every element of jurisdiction, including subject, matter, personal, and...
Well, now you bring up all this knowledge. Now you're the subject of the court. You see, this is the sort of language. I mean, I think you boys sent someone in the group there was sending out this shit, and I just go, oh yeah, you want to do this shit, okay?
Territorial jurisdiction. Until that is done.
Territorial. That's another example, another term for property.
I cannot enter a plea.
Well, I cannot. Well, what's the opposite?
Judge, the court assumes jurisdiction because...
Well, they assume jurisdiction and then they receive jurisdiction by what comes out of the pie hole.
This case falls within its legal authority. Now, how do you plead? Accused. I object, Your Honor.
I object. Yeah. You're a combatant, right? You're at war. You're going into you're in objection. Who the hell are you to be in objection to what? So you've just verified the charges by going into objection. How? Well, you're objecting to something that you haven't had. Who are you objecting to? Right? This is who exactly is one objecting to? You're objecting to your own monologue. There's no one else you're actually fighting in court other than yourself. This is where you need like a psych evaluation, because you're objecting to yourself. There's actually no one else who is your enemy and who's against you. This is the rude awakening, boys and girls. It's the bizarre monologue that we're fighting is between the ears of an individual. This is where the only fight resides, between the ears.
I do not accept the court's assumption of jurisdiction.
Well, now it's proven. You've just accepted it. What you don't, you do.
Assumptions are not proof.
Assumptions are not proof. Now who's doing the education? So the one who does the educating. So just imagine this, boys and girls, the system educated you, and now you're trying to educate the system. How does that work? it's hilarious, isn't it? It's like the system educated you, and now you're coming to the court to educate the court, educate the system. It's actually it's quite hysterical.
I challenge and rebut any and every presumption of jurisdiction.
So is that a presumption? You're speaking from a presumption because there's no one else, there's no one actually there who's arguing with you. You're only arguing with yourself. Who else are you arguing with? That's why when you go down these paths, it's a path of this common law rights society. It's a suicide. It's a suicide run, and once you start to go down this role play of programs, your program's going to be steamrolled.
I require the prosecution to provide evidence of proper jurisdiction on the record. Until they do so, this court has no authority to proceed.
And you know what? They will proceed and they'll lock your sorry ass up for however many days until you come out and change that bullshit shit that you're coming out of your mouth. Because, you know, we're bringing up endless terminology. I'm going to try and flip through this.
This court has jurisdiction and you must enter a plea. Accused, Your Honor, I am not attempting to delay. I am simply in...
So there you go. Keep talking. I am.
Which has the authority to, has jurisdiction.
This is all hardcore possession. And this is, these things have been thrown out as propaganda on these so-called these so-called chats. They're out there.
Based on the charges and the location of the crime. Accused, Your Honor, I again respectfully object. Legal standards cannot replace factual evidence. And I request...
Anyway, look, when I listen to this, I just go, I just go, fuck, mate. It's just churning and talking nonstop, just endless fucking garbage.
He'd already be in jail before he got through half of that spiel, right?
Yeah. So I only probably put that spiel up there for like less than a bloody minute, and I'm already passing out listening to this shit. You know what I mean? Because it's like when you start to take on these propaganda programs of whatever jurisdiction, common law, and all that crap, you're going to find when you go to court, it's going to be a lot of fun for you. If you like doing that, go for it. But how long are you gonna anyone that I know who goes to court, they all become very tired and exhausted. It's like a weary man. It's kind of like a young man becomes very old and weary very, very quickly, because if you've got a lot of fight in you, that's why you go to the army and you go to the front line where you can get blown up and shot. That way you can see your mate next to you get his head blown off and blood pissing out of his head. And you can actually open your eyes and go, fuck, is this what hell is? You're seeing your mates get blown to pieces. You know, this is what we sign up for. You sign up for life. This is what life's about. We actually, this is the belief. We've got to do this shit to one another. It's a crazy program. Crazy program. The shit that we've adopted as our own country and my state and my God knows what else. That's why Hacksaw Ridge, boys and girls, if you haven't watched the movie, you need to watch it. Is there a message in there? One may find it. One may find a message in there. Anyway, so where are we at? Any little questions along the way based on what we're talking about?
No questions for me.
All right. Well, I guess there's enough of, I don't know, there's enough from this rambling man from here. So maybe, I think Bob once said to me, there's a lot of young police force in the town where you live. Once you start asking questions and they're on point, they might start studying you, which is a good thing. And the system they'll pay close attention to you. And don't see that as, you know, a bad thing. This is the world we're living in. It's kind of like when you drop the ball, you want to wake up, because it's kind of like it reminds me of, you know, how asleep are you when the hand's in a bar mix and you've got a guy there ready to press the on button, and your hand is locked inside the bar mix, ready to make finger soup out of you. You think you're going to wake up? Are you feeling tired? I'm feeling tired. Well, now I'm about to press the button and you're going to have finger soup. How tired do you think you are now? You think you're going to wake up? These are things you want to start looking at. What's this? Notice of declaration. What's this? Oh, yeah. What's this piece of paper? Just in a snapshot. Oh, yep. The state. Oh, yeah. Common law shit. Oh, yeah. Lawfully required. Am I lawfully required to answer your questions? Shit, yeah. You see, you remember in that when the judge was saying, you believe you're God now, so you have to answer the questions. Do you remember that when we went through that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because you're now God. You got to answer the questions. I'll put you in jail until you come out and answer the questions. So if you want to go by this bullshit, you're going to go through the wood chipper, and just keep it simple. See, you could really look at a lot of this as you know, I lawfully required. That means I'm the possessor of every term. It's, you know, you bring up a term, now the law applies.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't bring up a term. There's just love between one another.
Right.
You bring up a fucking term, you utter it out of that rotten mouth. Well, now the law applies. Now you're criminal. Now there's a case. And now you'll testify against yourself. Right?
Well, Daniel, how do some people actually win in court and come away with $500,000 for 2 nights in jail? I mean, they had to make a claim, right?
Yeah, good. Then you see, you got to keep the people believing. You got to keep the people. That's why the court runs on down here. There's a lot of people who go to court, and you might have 1 in 100. They come out and they've made a case and they get $1 million, and then they spread it to everyone else. This is the way to do it. Look, it's nothing for someone to win a case down here, and it's great. It makes believers out of people. The system cannot continue without making a believer out of you. So yeah, follow those gurus, follow those people, and see if that's the example that you want to go by. Just that you bring it up, it's showing your mindset, brother. Not in a, you know, not trying to point a finger at or something. I'm just asking you, is it the model that one wants to go by?
Well,
yeah,
I've never said I wanted to go by it, brother. I was just simply asking.
I'm just by, I guess I'm just, because it just reminded me down here, there's a lot of people who are wanting to take the system into the courthouse, and a lot of people have gone completely bankrupt, and they thought they were doing the righteous thing, and that the system is the criminal and so forth, but very few people can see about, well, hang on, is it the system, or, you know, if the system created the people, what are the people doing? Now the people are the criminals. Think about it. It's us about. The people think the system's corrupt. What if it's the other way around? Anyone ever think about that?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think about that a lot, actually.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
rather than
I
looking
mean,
at the system,
well, the Bible. I mean, if you believe any part of the Bible tells us that the nation's been put under the sword for these reasons, for
yeah,
untrustworthy. Man can't be trusted to evolve man. It's got to be from God.
well, yeah, keep that in the background, but never speak it. Yeah, you can speak it amongst your brothers, but never ever speak that way to an agent. Know the difference. And when you're talking to an agent,
Yeah,
it's
Jesus. It was funny you mentioned those passages earlier because Jesus, every time he charged them to be silent and tell no one. There's
see that no
Christ.
man knows it. That's
That's
right.
right. That's right. So it was like, and even when they said they asked him, they said, "What's the greatest commandments of them all?" At this time, and he said, the guy leaned over to him and said, "You are correct. Our God is one God." And it said when Jesus saw that he answered him secretly, without anybody knowing, that's when Jesus replied that you are close to the kingdom of God.
Yeah, you're close when you see that no man knows it. In other words,
That's right.
I think you mentioned before. Oh, if we don't know anything, blah blah blah, then what's the point of it all? Well,
Not
is
me.
it true? Is it true? It's all written on the hearts, and if it's written on the hearts, it's only about how we conduct ourselves and how we communicate to one another, and
Right.
and that is only designed for one another, not to be spoken about to strangers, not to be, is it to be spoken to strangers, is what happens between your sheets, between the man and the woman. Is that to be spoken between the agents? Are you opening yourself up to whoredom with unidentified forces, with demonic forces where you're bringing in third parties? And that's why I love that song, Islands in the Stream, I think it is, with Dolly Parton and that. He says, there's no one in between us. There's just you and me. And what we agree to is blessed by the one above, right? And if we consider where there are two or more, there in the midst I am, right? If there's an I am, yeah, well, maybe possession is for the two, for the ones that are in love, because we're passing things on. We're not in possession of it. We're saying this is mine, but what's your act? Here, you're my girl. Good. So we're constantly feeding one another and uplifting and serving one another. And if we're servicing one another, we're serving one another. Is that what paradise on earth is? When we're looking after and looking out for one another, right? And meditating on difficult times, bring all thoughts into subjection to the possessor. All things that we struggle with, right? Think it, ink it, right? Thinking it, right? Then you put it to ink. It's the meditation, if you want to call it that. Call it whatever you like. It's bringing the terms, bringing the things, what you believe, the ideas, bring them all into subjection. Maybe there's a scripture in there about bring all thoughts into subjection there. One of your brothers may be able to look it up, right? Because of those thoughts that you believe you own, are they truly yours? And these are things you want to really ponder on. It seems to cause a lot of confusion amongst the brothers, apparently. It's really looking at the programs and starting to hack thyself. Start to meditate, or maybe that's just a lack of a word. Start to scrutinise. Just using different terms. Scrutinise, investigate, question, ponder, consider, open the statement up. The statement is like a closure. The statement is like a fixture. It's set. How are you going to jackhammer it open if it's set in concrete? How are you going to open up a belief system that's been set in concrete for so long, maybe through generations, and passed on as sins to the daughters and the sons of this world? And then they're now carrying those burdens, those burdens of possession. And who can bear it? How did allegedly Jesus deal with that? You know, how did he deal with the burdens of possession? Very difficult. He said, take this cup from me, if it be thy will. You know, take this cup from me, it is unbearable. Who can bear it? Which man on this planet can bear possession? Look at the way things are going in this world. Unbelievable. There's more mental disease in this part of the world. It's like a walking corpse. Everyone's like amped, like they're being zapped with fucking charge. The charge is in you. It's like an endless charge. You're walking around like you're lit up like a bloody, you know, like a 24/7 amp that's you're going to burn out, and you're going to be old and grey in half the time. Down here, I'm looking at people who used to be young, and they're old. They look old now. Maybe I'm an old bloody geezer, I don't know, but it ages you. Possession, it makes you old. You become old man very, very quickly. You'd be surprised. If you don't renew the mind, you start coming to being enjoying the moment, and enjoy even if you have to, even if you're going out and you're doing this stuff with the coppers, the centurions, whatever. Enjoy it, because they're without them. How is it that they study you? And there's such reluctance in us, in the brothers, to study them. Why does it seem to be that way? Because I can tell you right now, down here, I don't know, but they've studied the stuff we're doing. My goodness me, have they studied it? How do I know this? Well, let's just say that the so-called questionnaires that they ask, they're updated all the time. When they get updated, I'm always getting updated. And they're helping me. And I'm helping them. Only through question. You make a statement, they want to help you make statements. Good. Then did you learn anything? All right? So be careful what you say. And if there's the one universal law, anything you say can and will be used against you, or can and will be used against you, or may be used against you. They say may down here, can and will may be used against you. All right, until we hear what comes out of your mouth. That's all. It's not what goes in a mouth that defiles a man. It's what comes out of his dirty mouth. All right? So anyone who does ever an interview with any agent, see that no man knows it. Help out anyone you want. Go and, do what we need to do. And I keep going back to Hacksaw Ridge. What that guy did, you think he's looking for praise? No, every man praised him and held him up high. They were in awe of him, what he did. And did he make some announcement? Oh, I'm not this and I'm that and I'm fucking whatever. Not a bloody thing. He shut his effing mouth and he did the job. And did he do it well? Oh, wait till you see the movie. You might receive the message. You may receive the message. And if you didn't, maybe you should watch it again. It's a pretty full-on movie. I thoroughly recommend it. Anyway, I think for today, I think maybe we're done. If there's any other questions, maybe we could talk about. Other than that, anything that one wants to talk about, that want to ask about, or anything?
Think I'm at peace, brother.
All right. Did anything in this call help today, or what?
Yes, brother. You gave me a lot to think about, especially what you were talking about at first, as it related to the video you played first. Yes, you gave me quite a bit to think about. I wrote some things down, and I enjoyed that. Yes.
Okay, because without these things that you're passing on, and it's probably good that if there's things for maybe that you want to talk about, you can bring them to the call so we can go through it, and it may help in the perspective. Why is everything nonsense and doesn't make sense? Why is everything upside down and inside out? And maybe if we start flipping the perspective, there may be some internal understanding. There's an understanding we start looking at, maybe we start to consider really what's going on, rather than the perspective of man who's taken this program, the traditions of man, the traditions of man and his programs and his doctrines, and man who persist in hammering these doctrines, that this is the way, and man will do whatever he can to get you to believe, to get you to take these doctrines, just as these doctrines have been passed on to everyone else, so shall you take them. You can be just like everyone else. Just take this offer. That's all you've got to do, is be like everybody else. Who isn't taking these offers? I never, if I was to recall, a judge once said to the prosecution went to the judge once and said, "He's just not going to take it, Judge. He's just not going to take it."
Beautiful.
Was that the best report card I could have received? And the judge was looking, what are we going to do with this fella? He's a complete dumbass. Oh, shit. You mean he's not going into terminology? He doesn't want to go into contradiction to the defendant, or whatever to the opposition, whatever's there. And just remember that you're fighting yourself. There's no one else. I mean, that's the rude awakening. I've always found that's got to be the most difficult thing to conceive. Is all along we've been thinking that the battle is with someone else, and then we discover it is actually it's within myself. It's within me and the Maker. Is this something that's like a head fuck 101 for people to even conceive that this battle that's going on is actually, it's not between you and anyone else, between you and if there was a Maker, the possessor, and it's directly between you and him, or whatever you want to call it. And yet we have these great struggles and great sufferings, all because we take it upon ourselves, thinking that we know shit. Well, why would that be? Why do we do such things? Before you do anything, boys and girls, ask yourself 2 questions. What am I doing before I go into it? And why am I doing it? If you can at least stick with those 2 questions, that's a hell of a start. A hell of a start to put one step in front of the next. So if we keep these calls going, I always love the great comic pictures that you put on these YouTube there, Dominion. They're always fun. And look, I don't know if they do get out there, that's great. If they don't, it doesn't really matter. It's just nice and clear. It's easy to click on if someone wants it as a reference point, and you know, it's nice and simple. And it is actually good. Even with that other guy, William, who was on the call, there was a bit of a YouTube about it. Even with that brother back then, I think it was good that you recorded that. Why? Is because it just shows, and this is why the difference between listening to stories and cross-examination. The difference is when we're examining an audio, a video about something, it's paused at every proposition, and it can be quite frustrating for people. The frustration is very important because that's the study. That's where we're basically breaking and scrutinising and cross-examination and interrogation of every assumption. And that's why I was unable to proceed with one of the brothers, because how is one supposed to know something unless you know what they're actually talking about? And when there's overriding in someone, when there's the overriding, they're unable to listen. That's why before I continue, I normally ask and let people know, but I think that the people on this call, you know that I'll stop at every moment when there's a statement or a proposition. I'll stop you, and then we'll look at it. We open it up, and we go into exploring the questions of it. Other than that, it's very easy to once the horse is bolted, to bring it back to the very first proposition. Once the horse is bolted, it's a dog's breakfast, and that's why these calls are very good, to keep them on point, on the proposition, on the path. And the path is to start listening, and without being spoon-fed. And the spoon-feeding is what we're all used to, and that's what is the stories. We love that sort of shit, and that's why the wolf wants to hear, you know, explain yourself. You know, I explained to you, now you explain to me. Who the fuck do you think you are to explain to anyone? Do I know you? So keep it in line with that. You might surprise yourself, just you know, see that no man knows it. But yet the ones around you will start seeing the fruits of what you are. And they'll go, oh, I'm going to come to this brother. Why? Because there's something about him. He demonstrates what this is about. He doesn't go preaching this shit. He doesn't go talking about it. He does it. He doesn't go fucking making out he's a fucking hero or some bullshit, you know, making statements, going talking to agents. Dolly Parton, between you and me. When you're helping someone, you do it. You guys need help? Fuck yeah, we're about to explode. Good. Blow up with them if you need to. Go in and fucking drag the bodies out. Go in and fucking do it. See that no man knows it. Disappear into the night. Do you know what happened? What are you talking about? You were there. Was I? So what? How may I help? Oh, I want to interview you. What do you mean by we? What you do is between the one and the other, and between you and the one that's in before you. All right? Is it a natural duty inside each and every one of us to help? Anyway, that might be a guide. And watch that movie, and there's little snippets of gold everywhere, brothers. Maybe if you look at it, I'm sure you'll be able to see it. Anyway, I think we'll wrap it up for today. And if there's other things during the week that you want to ponder on or consider, always send it through, and we can always open it up and discuss it. I always love, you know, listening to actual coppers. Why? That's where you do all the learning from, and judges and videos and recordings. That's the only thing that's going to help. Sitting down listening to some arsehole guru, how's that actual first-hand experience, getting out there and doing it? How does that help? What's the best for everyone? What's your intent? All that crap. How does that help? Doesn't do anything. Intent down here is all about possession. You want to fucking preach intent, you get locked up. You want to talk about, listening to the heart and all that. Well, when you get locked up, well, keep listening to the heart. So what do you know about all these things? It's a joke. Yeah, that's right. It's just endless, the amount of bullshit that's out there. See the gold in it and ask, how do I go about living it? How do I live this instead of preaching it and telling it? See that no man knows it. Imagine that. Who am I to fucking explain anything? Two things in life: never explain yourself and never complain. Is that something to go by? It may be. All right, boys, I'm about to hang up. If you want to speak up, say something now. Otherwise, we'll reconvene another time.
Peace and love, brothers.
All right, brothers. Lots of love.